What's up, guys? It's been a long time, but I'm finally back doing the Dreamlet podcast with my buddy OC. He is the guest for today, and both of us recently traveled to Japan, and
Yes.
we got back recently, and I'm definitely missing it. But this is why I devised this podcast episode to be all about Japan, and we're gonna talk about lessons we've learned from it, some fun stories, and just overall like how we felt about the whole trip.
Yeah.
So I can go ahead and start off and say like I overall had like so much fun, and like it was one of the best trips. Of course, recency bias, but one of the best trips I've ever had like internationally. I've been to
Right.
Japan before in 2017, plus Korea, the UK, and I visited Paris for like one day while I was at the UK. Those are all like the international places I've ever been to.
So how does this trip for you compare to the last time you were in Japan? Saying that this is like your favorite international trip.
Right, right. I love my college friends. I went with them in 2017. I'm not saying, not saying like the people were better. I'm saying that the
Uh-huh.
trip overall was just more interesting, and I'd say a big reason for that is that I took more control in this trip
Okay.
versus in 2017 when I went with my college friends. One of my college roommates, he was the one who planned the itinerary. I did deviate from the itinerary with a mutual friend we have,
Mm-hmm.
and but most of the time he booked the hotels, or I was basically just tagging along for a lot of the plans.
Interesting.
This time it was a lot of hands-on, like this is what I'm doing, this is where I'm going, I'm booking my own
Right.
hotels,
Uh-huh.
all that stuff, and it feels so different. It's like a completely different experience when you do that,
Mm.
because like you have to learn. You have to like learn how to actually book hotels. You have to learn how to, it's not hard, but
No, yeah.
like doing it gives you a sense of satisfaction, because like
Like you're taking ownership over the experience.
exactly,
Yeah.
yeah.
I definitely enjoyed this trip a lot. Like it's been a long time since I've traveled internationally. The last time was probably 2012
Whoa,
to Nigeria.
that is a long time.
Yeah. It's been a very long time since I've traveled internationally. So this was definitely an interesting trip. It was very much anticipated, and yeah, I loved it. I think it was a wonderful experience just to be able to go travel abroad and see um a different
Culture, different.
culture, environment, setting, people, places, with also having like your friends there.
Yeah,
Yeah, it
yeah,
was just
dude.
like having a bunch of, because we were there with a ton of, like, a huge group of friends,
Yeah, yeah.
realistically. Like there were a lot of us who were able to go out and uh
At the
essentially
same time.
share at the same
Yeah.
time in this trip to Japan. So yeah, it was a wonderful experience. It
Yeah,
was great.
definitely.
Yeah.
When I went with my college friends, it was a blast with them too, and like they definitely made it better, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then this time
Mm-hmm.
around, like now that I'm older, now that like 6 years have passed since 2017, like it's harder. It's a bit harder to get everyone, or like to get more friends to go at the same time.
Right.
But somehow, I don't know
Yeah.
how, like this April of 2023 was just the time to go to Japan for
Yeah.
us, and like we managed to get at least, I mean, I saw at least like what, at least 10 um combining family for me.
Uh-huh. Uh-huh.
Uh People I knew in Japan,
Mm.
like people I knew from America that traveled to Japan. So that was crazy to me.
It really was, like, and I don't know if there was something special. This is like a period of time where Japan is opening up after COVID-19.
Yeah.
And
And it wasn't hard to get in.
it wasn't hard to get in. It wasn't difficult. There weren't
Yeah.
a ton of barriers, and I suppose travel was just a little bit cheaper than it normally is, and then also the dollar
The
value
yen,
to the
yeah.
yen was very
Yeah, I felt like a king.
very much in our favor. But for whatever reason, a ton of people like that I knew who I didn't like plan this trip with
Yeah.
were also traveling to Japan at kind of the same time. Like the first night that I arrived in Japan, because we got there and left kind of on different days.
Right.
But we spent a lot of time together when we could. But the first day that I arrived at Japan, one of my friends from college was also in Japan, and we were hanging out like a few months before the trip, and I kind of just casually dropped that, oh yeah, I'm planning on going to Japan. And he's like, wait, I'm planning on going to Japan too. And so for whatever reason, like suddenly like there's just like a lot of people who are traveling to Japan at the same time. So yeah, I was able to hang out with him and his friends, me and the people I was staying with. We were all able to like hang out in a big group, and it was just like a really cool like first night in Japan. And even like after coming back, I saw like other people who I had no idea were also in Japan posting pictures from their Japan trip from that period. It's like, oh, this is crazy.
Yeah, our minds are on it because we just went, so it's like when we see it, we're like, whoa. But I'm pretty sure if we had not gone to Japan, we wouldn't have noticed it as much.
I'm sure. Yeah.
So it's definitely a bias there, but
yeah.
At the same time, it's still cool.
It is really cool. It's really cool. I don't know how many like experiences like that you can have where you're just like in a foreign country with a bunch of your friends and you're all like hanging out together.
It's pretty sweet.
But I'm glad I was able to enjoy this.
Things that happened in Japan, which aren't necessarily tied to Japan, that were really cool, was number one, my sister's boyfriend proposed to my sister. In Kyoto.
Congratulations.
And, thank you. I was very happy for her. I was like, honestly, like just really, really happy. Me and my sister, you know, she teases me. She always calls me like big sister stuff, you know. So she's like, why are you happy for me? Blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, I just am, sis. But like I was, and he asked me to record it, like video record it ahead of time. And I was just like, so excited when he texted me that. And we tried to do it during the Philosopher's Path in Kyoto, which normally has a lot of like cherry blossoms and stuff like that during spring, but we went on a day right after it rained.
Oh yeah.
So the rain like totally
washed away.
Yeah, and you can see all of it in I think there was a river there.
Okay.
And a whole bunch of petals. It was nice though, but you can't exactly propose in the river, so
right.
But we didn't do that day because it started raining out of nowhere. And then we did it in the bamboo forest instead. And that was still really nice over there.
Okay.
But at the same time, I will say, like, the more I traveled in Japan, I'm like, God, this would have been a nice place to propose. Like, every single other day.
Every time after that.
Yeah, I'm like, damn, this would have been way better. Like, this looks so nice. So, like, I've been feeling, like, those, like, regrets each time afterwards. Because, like, there's so many nice places, honestly.
There are. It's a beautiful place.
Yeah.
It really is. And so it's really interesting because I didn't go to as many locations in Japan as you did. I spent most of my time in Tokyo. And then like if you've been to Japan, like Tokyo, there's so much to do in Tokyo. It's crazy. So even spending most of my time in Tokyo, there were still things that I wish I had an opportunity to do. So
like what?
Oh, like the go-karts, like the real life go-karting
like the Mario
through the
Kart
streets.
stuff?
The Mario Kart stuff. By the time we got there, everything was all booked up. So it was a missed opportunity for sure. But yeah, stuff like that would have been really, really awesome too. And then the life-size Gundam. I never had a day where I could go down to the life-size, like, because everything was like so. We were like always so busy and like doing stuff, so I never had a day where I could just like get away and go to see it. So I missed out on that. So stuff like that I wish I could have done. But I spent most of my time in Tokyo, and then I spent a few days in Kyoto as well.
Yes,
and I think that
so glad you did.
Yeah, Kyoto was such a fun place. I think I had like my favorite day on the trip in Kyoto.
Yes.
it was like literally my last day before leaving Japan. And so it was just like it was a great time, and the vibes are so different. Like,
dude, I'm telling you, because like the context is you were in Tokyo and you were still a little unsure exactly where you were gonna go afterwards, right?
Yeah.
So when I was telling you about Kyoto and how I think it's my favorite place in Japan, and like oh my God, it's so great. It feels different. And then, and now you're saying it, I'm like, yeah.
Yeah, that's right. Because I was like, yeah, I was in Tokyo. I had a little bit of a change of plans, so I had a few extra days before I had to go. Before I had to go back to the States, where I was like, I need to, decide what I want to do, if I want to stay in Tokyo for these extra days or maybe take that opportunity to travel somewhere else, maybe
Yeah.
Osaka, maybe explore around. But yeah, literally everybody kept saying Kyoto. There was a day that I was by myself in one of the stores in Tokyo,
Mm-hmm.
and I ran into this Canadian.
Mm-hmm.
And this Canadian, he started talking to me about his experience in Tokyo and just like how he had been there for years. He was an English teacher.
Oh, wow. Nice.
So he was telling me that, oh yeah, you need to go to Kyoto. He was telling me. I'm like, okay. I
Dude,
guess
literally everyone is telling you.
everyone, strangers in Japan are telling me to go to Kyoto. So I'm like, okay, I guess I got to make this work. So luckily the guys that I was also staying with were also planning on going to Kyoto there. So I just basically joined them. I got my own place, but I kind of met up with them to do that, and it turned out it turned out to be the right decision. So
Hell yeah.
hopefully I'll have some, there'll be another trip to Japan and I can explore all the other places that I didn't see. But yeah, I bring that up to say that in my like experience, Tokyo was very much like that industrial city vibe,
Very
where
much
it's like very
so.
akin to Los Angeles. We're here,
But like way
in Southern
cleaner and way
California.
cooler.
Way cleaner, way cleaner. It's definitely like a Japanese, like the cleanliness is very strict over there. So you could feel that. But like as far as like a city that felt familiar, it definitely felt familiar for that reason. There's like, oh yeah, because walking around Tokyo at night kind of feels a little bit like walking around LA at night, minus the homeless people being as weird.
Yeah. I don't know, dude. I feel like a slight sense of danger when I'm walking around LA at night.
Yeah, definitely.
And in Japan, I'm like, I'm good. Like I don't feel that danger.
You don't feel as dangerous.
Yeah.
That's definitely true. Like but I don't know. It felt like, but I guess it's just like a different culture, because I still felt that like, oh, I need to like just
You
keep
gotta be
an eye
careful.
out.
Yeah.
But the
I still-
Japanese people there
Yeah.
were like, there were women who were just like out in the streets drunk at night, and I'm like, how can you be so like
Reckless, careless.
reckless or just like comfortable doing this?
Yeah.
Because like I can't imagine somebody being that drunk, like a woman being that drunk at night in LA.
No way, dude.
It was wild.
Yeah.
So but I guess
I get what you mean though, like, because I still had that sense at night too,
Yeah,
like
yeah.
just to be careful,
right,
because we grew up like that, like.
exactly.
So
it did have that vibe in Tokyo, but then in Kyoto it was Tokyo kind of felt like the Akira version of Japan. Is like, this is like the grungy, not LA grungy, but like city grungy type vibes. But then Kyoto felt like the Studio Ghibli, the Studio Ghibli version of Japan, where it's like you have these like temples and shrines, and then you have the nature that's kind of meshed more in with the everyday living.
that's what I love about Kyoto. It's so aesthetic. It's so like nice to have nature mixed with like modern buildings, and just it's a perfect blend.
There was literally a day that it was my last day in Japan, was in Kyoto, that I spent most of that day alone. So I went to the bamboo forest
nice
that morning, and I walked up, and walking down out of the bamboo forest, I went a different route, and it felt like I was in a scene that was like straight out of My Neighbor Totoro. Like, just walking through this neighborhood, it felt like I've seen this before, like on my screen.
Nice.
And it was just so, yeah, it felt so cool, and just like, being there, experiencing all of those things. It was definitely very enjoyable.
Definitely. Like I said before, Kyoto is one of my favorites, and I actually made like YouTube shorts for each day in Japan, and a lot of those shorts have like what I did.
Mhm.
So if you guys are like curious, you can check it out. Um, it's my personal channel, but in terms of some of my favorite stuff, like the temples and shrines for sure, one of them was called the Eikan Zenrinji Temple. That one was like very low key, and it had like this super nice pond. What I discovered is I really love Japanese ponds.
Mm.
There's something about just being near them and just chilling there, having the breeze come by and just seeing these nice flowers next to it and a little small gate, little shrine. It's just beautiful.
Mm.
Like I could
Mm.
sit there all day, but you know, there's more to see, so I couldn't. But but
Right.
but I loved any spot like that, honestly. One of the more interesting stories from this trip for me was when there was like a separation with my friends, and then I ended up being traveling alone for that day.
Uh-huh.
And there's something about traveling alone that's very, very different.
Yeah.
Like you get to go at your own pace. You don't have to worry about others, like their
Yeah.
will, like where they want to go, how
Exactly.
fast they want to go, if they want to eat, all that stuff. You know, you don't have to worry about any of it,
Mhm.
and you get to do whatever you want essentially. Um, and for me, that was like a very freeing feeling, and that was probably the only day where like it was fully like that for me.
Mm. Mhm.
So it was when I was in Nara, Japan.
Okay.
So Nara, Japan is known for having like deers roaming around on like random blocks,
Yeah.
primarily close to the deer park. And then there's this really beautiful pond with like a sakura tree.
Mm.
And a random girl just came up to me and asked me if like, oh, can you help me take a photo with this deer?
Okay.
And then I helped her. And afterwards, she asked me if I wanted to hang out with her.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I was like, whoa, okay, that's cool. I mean, I'm traveling alone. Like,
Uh-huh. Uh-huh.
you seem like a cool person. You have a nice camera. She had a Sony, I think it was A7R4.
Okay.
So that's like a photography camera. So it's like, and she told me she did it for 10 years. So that's like
Oh, wow.
really cool.
Yeah.
Anyone who's into creative stuff, I feel like I vibe with. So
Uh-huh.
I was like, yeah, totally. Like, let's hang out. So we hung out for 3 hours. But the catch was she could not speak any English.
Mm.
Well, very, very little English.
Very little.
And she can only speak Mandarin because she's from like China.
Okay.
And that whole experience was very surreal.
Right.
It was very like the way we talked to each other was with Google Translate the whole time.
Oh, wow.
Like the voice feature. That was the first time I've ever done that in my life. Like just using that feature.
You know, one of the interesting things about like being in foreign country and not knowing the language, I don't know what my expectations were going into it, but it wasn't as um inhibiting as I was
Mm.
kind of a little bit um worried that it might be.
Mm-hmm.
Because there really is a lot that you can do to communicate with people just through gestures.
Mm-hmm.
And then also technology. Like, yeah, Google Translate came in clutch several times for me. I was able to use it in so many different scenarios, and then, you know, picking up some Japanese here and there.
Mm-hmm.
The guys that I was with attempted to like learn a little bit more formally before going.
Yeah.
So I was able to like pick up some of the more common phrases that they were using. A lot of stuff having to do with ordering food
Yeah.
and getting, you know, waiters' attention, and they were asking for the bill, like stuff like that. I was able to pick up.
Yeah.
So it was actually really cool, and I think that like I think it would be so cool to just like be able to immerse yourself in a different language,
Yeah.
such that you could like learn it over the course of a few months.
I think it's really fun. Like
yeah.
trying it, failing at it, making a lot of mistakes, them
Yeah.
being like, "What?"
yeah.
Because even when our mutual friend when he made the mistake of saying like "okai ken," "oku
Uh-huh.
desai," right? Like
Yeah,
asking
yeah.
for the bill, but it's "okai ke," right?
Okay.
Yeah, and like the waiter understood either way,
Right.
but I mean that was interesting because that izakaya, that waitress was Indian, right?
Yes, yeah,
and she could speak English.
She was Indian. Yeah, she was
So-
Indian. She was speaking English, but she was in Japan. And she
She
yeah,
can speak Japanese
she
too.
was really cool. There were a lot of really cool like just like people like you
Yeah,
get to
yeah.
like interact with. But she was like
She was making fun of him for
she was
for,
making
for making the mistake, but
yeah.
but it was funny, and it helps. I'm pretty sure making that mistake helps. You know, like
Yeah.
I'm not gonna say it wrong anymore because like I know
You have that like
Yeah.
you know that mental cue, and they were also very willing to engage with you if you were trying to speak the
Yeah.
language, which is really cool.
Luckily for me, I took it in high school and I
That's right. Yeah.
retained it over time. Going to Japan and actually using it is a different story. I feel like I used it less in 2017, even though that was like closer to when I was like in high school when I learned it.
Uh-huh.
I probably definitely spoke better now. And it tickles my brain each time I try to like formulate sentences in
Mhm.
Japanese and
Mhm.
like try to communicate. And whenever they understand me, I'm like, yes.
Nice.
And then they start talking a whole bunch of Japanese that I don't understand. I'm like, because they probably think I'm Japanese at that point.
Mhm.
It's a funny story. Like when I was trying to get to Nara on my own from Kyoto, it was a rush, and I just spoke a lot of Japanese to a lot of random people because I was scared of getting lost.
Uh-huh.
Sometimes in the subways, like your maps, you know, it loses signal, all that stuff.
Yeah, that was go on.
Yeah. So like I want to make sure. So I'm asking these random Japanese strangers. I'm just going up to them, sumimasen, like, is this place here? Am I going to the right place? Is this the right line? All that stuff. I probably don't need to do that anymore because I'm way better at navigating.
Uh-huh.
At the end of the trip than I was in
At the beginning.
yeah, at the beginning. But while I was doing that, I just spoke so much Japanese, and I was just like so glad that they could understand me
Uh-huh.
and that I could understand them, at least the simplified like stuff. When I was like, oh yeah, wakarimasen, they would tell me like in a simpler way. And then there was this older dude, like maybe in his late 30s. I was asking him if it was the right line and everything in Japanese, and he would speak a lot of Japanese to me. At a certain point, I didn't understand, so I told him I didn't understand, and he was like, well, like your Japanese sounds like really good, like,
Oh, nice.
and he was saying like he couldn't tell that I was an actual like
Oh,
American.
okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I was like, whoa, thank you. It was a very proud moment for me.
That's great.
But I do feel like after going to Japan, I want to learn the language more.
Yeah, I had a different experience going in just because like I am currently trying to learn Igbo, at least like prior to this Japan trip. And so when everything was going, like when the plans were starting to formulate for the Japan trip, and a lot of the other guys were, you know, formally taking like learning some Japanese
Mhm.
seriously, I kind of like I decided to not invest as much
Mhm.
just because where I am right now, I don't necessarily have a vested interest in learning Japanese
Mhm.
specifically. Just like at this point in time, just because I'm trying to learn a completely different language in Igbo,
Yeah.
and I'm trying to retain Spanish.
Mm.
So like I took Spanish in high school, and I've been able to retain a fair amount of it.
That's good.
So I'll sometimes just like try to like talk to myself in Spanish,
Hmm.
just like in my head, just like keep that
Gotta find a partner
going.
to talk to, a language
Right.
partner.
Yeah, I got to do that. But then also at the same time trying to learn a completely new language. And so if it didn't feel like a good idea to try to add
No, for
in
real.
a third language into that equation.
When I was talking to that girl, the one from China who can only speak Mandarin,
uh-huh.
I was like picking stuff up in Mandarin, right?
Uh-huh.
Because I can speak Cantonese and some things are similar.
Right.
So I felt like I was learning more, but like everything when I was trying to speak Cantonese, even or Mandarin, everything would go through a filter where it would go to Japanese first
Oh.
and then to the other language. So I was
interesting.
like, what's going on? Like I feel like saying everything in Japanese right now, and
Yeah.
it's not right. I'm trying to speak Cantonese or Mandarin, but I can
Uh-huh.
only think in Japanese, and it was very strange. So I'm like, learning multiple languages at the same time is
it's a challenge. I don't know if it's ideal.
Yeah, I don't
so.
think it's probably not ideal.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's
so that was the position that I was going. So that's why I didn't like put as much effort into like learning Japanese before going, but I was still able to like pick up some like common helpful phrases while I was there, which was very helpful. I had to ask for a lot of miso very frequently. Mizu
water.
Yeah, I had to ask for that frequently, so that was good. But yeah, it was really interesting having that exercise of being able to like try to communicate with people as much as you can.
And I met like a Japanese friend in Kyoto, originally my sister's friend, but I got to talk to her a lot that day in Kyoto, and it was one of my favorite days because it was probably the most Japanese I've ever spoken in a single day. Because she's like, she was helping me, like able to just correct me whenever I said something wrong, and that is so nice to have.
Yeah, that's good to have somebody.
Yeah, and I'm still talking to her now, so I'm like, it's a very good thing to have like someone who is there and natively speaks it. You know.
Yeah.
You can't beat that in terms of learning, in my opinion.
Right. Just having that consistent practice.
And it's a good thing she understands a lot of English too. So I do feel like the ideal like person to teach you is someone who understands both languages really well. Because like if they don't understand English well, they can't communicate to you like the nuances of why a certain thing is better used or a certain word is better used than another.
Yeah.
In the language you understand.
Right.
So yeah, but yeah, that's my feelings about all of the language aspect of things.
Yeah.
I definitely had a lot of fun during like speaking a lot. It was very, very stimulating.
Nice.
Yeah, but now that I'm back, I'm just speaking English all the time. I'm like,
yeah, it's more comfortable, But yeah, I think there were a lot of really interesting just like experiences in the different places that I went to in Japan. At least just like there was one night where, so the way that it works in Japan is the trains end at midnight,
right,
and they don't start up again until like 5 a.m.
Mm-hmm.
So there was one night where we basically didn't get on that midnight train, and we were pretty far away from our hotel, so we had to kind of just like ride out the night until the trains open back up.
Is this the clubbing night that you guys did?
Yeah, so there was a day. So a lot of the guys that I was with, they were very much into the nightlife scene of Tokyo,
very much
and like
so.
trying to experience that. So I was with them one of those nights, and that night, I believe, so we started out at this like secret underground club that was like you had to go through this bookshelf to find. Yeah,
that already sounds like super dope, but like
it was pretty interesting. It was a cool situation. And so we got there. They ended pretty quickly. Like they closed pretty quickly after we got there. We were there for like maybe an hour. And then after that, once we were leaving, this Japanese girl was like, "Hey, you guys should come with us. We're going to this other place." She spoke like perfect English, and it was really cool. So that we basically followed them. I was kind of sketched out by it. I was pretty sketched out by it.
The way you said it made me sketched out. I was like, what?
Yeah. So we kind of like followed this group, and I was like trying to like mentally map out where we were going just so that I wouldn't get lost. But we were following them, and they took us to, and at a certain point, like, because it was like a pretty big group, and we're following like these two main people who both spoke English. They were like telling us, "Oh yeah, the guy was telling us, I live here. I'm actually going to DJ at this next place that we're going to."
Oh wow.
Yeah. And so we were talking to both of them, the guy and the girl, and then at a certain point, the other people who were with us left.
Ooh.
And so
Where is this story going?
I was very much on high alert. So we eventually get to the other location. It's also at this underground place.
Uh-huh.
And
Was it behind a bookshelf again, or
no,
was
it
it
wasn't
different?
behind a bookshelf, but it was like you had to go under this building and you have to like go through this like winding corridor.
Oh, okay.
So it was interesting. And then there were people there. There was like this French group there.
Mhm.
It was very interesting. But yeah, apparently that other group that was with us initially, they went to eat. And we just like they left us.
I see.
But yeah, we basically spent the rest of the night at that place. And yeah, I was kind of just like waiting for for the trains, but yeah, everybody else was having a great time. Everyone else was loving it.
So, were you waiting because like you were cautious, or is it just like because I know your clubs is not like really your setting?
Yeah, no. I was kind of just in it for the experience of just like, yeah, let me just have this experience for this night.
Yeah.
Just like hanging out with
Yeah.
them all night in
And
Kyoto.
and not have another one for a lot of years to
Yeah,
come.
I mean, I don't need to, I don't need it. But yeah, they after after that club closed, it was like 3:30 or 4
Mhm.
in the morning. And so we spent quite a bit of time looking for food, which is kind of rare at that hour
Yeah.
of the day, but we did eventually find food. But
Yeah, that night happened to be the same night that I
yeah.
was at a club.
Yeah.
And I don't go to clubs very often. I actually made like a video saying I don't really like clubs. But like this was a Japanese club, so I was like, all right, let's check it out. It's pretty similar
Yeah.
to at least the clubs I've been to in Vegas and Los Angeles.
Mhm.
Smaller, but similar in
I
terms
will
of
say also, at least for the ones that I was at, the music that played was like purely EDM music,
Mm.
which I it's not like my favorite to dance to, but
Yeah.
it is a type of music for clubbing. So I guess that's what the vibe was.
It was similar
in Tokyo.
where I was, and
Mhm.
most of the time I would just be on the dance floor, just chilling, just like um, grooving a little bit, not going too hard with the dancing. There was a certain point where I went hard with the dancing, but just because like I don't drink personally, and like what else do I do at a club, right?
Yeah,
So
definitely. I was not drinking in that situation.
yeah, so I just went all out with like a quick dance sesh,
Yeah.
real quick.
It's definitely the type of thing where if you're not drinking, you're not enjoying it at the level that everybody else who
Yeah,
is drinking
yeah.
is enjoying it.
Yeah, that's why it's
So
not our scene.
exactly. But yeah, it is what it is. It was an
Yeah.
experience.
It was an experience.
Once
My
in a
family was
lifetime.
having fun, that's for sure. They were
That's
like,
good, yeah.
they were going crazy and they were wild. They were
Okay.
drunk for sure. And it was funny because I was wearing a dress shirt that had like a white collar, whites, what are these called? Cuffs.
Cuffs.
Yeah. And there were, I think, 2 or 3 like people there that mistaken me for like a person that worked there.
Oh,
So they would
interesting.
ask me questions like, "Where's the restroom?" or "How do I
Uh-huh.
get here?" And I'm like, and I would tell them how to get to the restroom because I knew. But like, but at some point there was this one girl that was like, "Oh my gosh, you're not actually a worker," because my friend who's Japanese pointed it out.
Mhm.
And it was really funny. She's so embarrassed. And I'm just like, "Oh, I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry." And I'm
Yeah.
like, "No, it's okay."
Yeah. It's very interesting. Like one of the very interesting experiences that we had in our group was the experience of the culture
Mhm.
in Japan. So on multiple occasions, we had like super nice interactions with just like Japanese people.
Mhm.
So one time you were actually with us. This was when our groups were combined. When it was raining heavily one day,
Mhm.
and we were walking. Not everybody in the group had an umbrella because we weren't prepared for it. But this lady, Andrew, was walking
Oh, yeah,
without an
yeah, yeah.
umbrella, and then this lady who was about to go home, sees Andrew and is like, "Oh, take my umbrella. I'm right here. I'm home. So just take my umbrella." So it's just like super cool. Just was like, oh, this
That's kind of
random
surprising.
stranger
Yeah.
gave Andrew her umbrella, and so stuff like that. There was an experience where one of the guys in our group lost his phone one night when they were out, and he lost his phone, so they went to look it up. It was turned off. And so the next morning they realized that, oh, somebody turned it on, and it was at a police station, which means that somebody essentially took the phone from wherever they left it on the street or something.
Yeah.
And they took it home, which was kind of far away from where it was lost.
Right.
Took it home, and the next morning on their way to work took it to the police station, filled out paperwork that takes like an hour to fill out,
What the heck?
like explaining in detail where it was found, like all the, just so that it matches up. So when they went to get it, they had to fill out paperwork to make sure that their recollection of the story matches with this person's
Holy
recollection
crap.
of the story. And so
Hardcore.
yeah, it was super hardcore. But just the fact that somebody was willing to go out of their way to do all of that was really very
Telling of their
very
culture.
telling. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. And then there was another experience where so we have to use these train cards, Passmore Suica
Right. Yeah.
cards.
He told us this one too. Yeah.
Yeah.
When he left it at Starbucks, right?
Yeah, I was with him when it happened. It was one of our friends had an empty one, an empty train card,
Right.
and he was going to throw it away, or he did throw it away at a Starbucks in Japan, and the lady who was taking his order noticed it in his hand before he took it, he ordered his drink. He goes upstairs, throws it away upstairs, comes downstairs. She notices that he doesn't have it anymore. She rushes upstairs as he's leaving the store, rushes upstairs, digs through the trash, grabs the card, goes back down outside of the store to find him. She finds him and tries to hand him back the card, but they can't communicate with each other. She goes back inside the Starbucks, gets a tablet to use Translate, and explains to him that, hey, if you turn this back into the train station, you'll get 500 yen for it. So she did all of that so that he wouldn't lose out on 500 yen, essentially $5.
Yeah.
And it was such a crazy experience of somebody willing to go, not even the extra mile, just like go beyond what is like, as an American, you go way beyond what is expected as far as like service and help and being helpful and all of that stuff. We experienced that kind of attitude in everything, not just the service, but just like the way that people interact with their craft, the quality of the food that we had over there, the coffee, everything felt like it took so much care and attention to detail on the part of the people that were creating it. It came through in our experience.
Yeah, I agree with that so much, especially the architecture. Like,
yeah,
everywhere looks aesthetic.
Yes,
it's like well designed. There was thought put into it. It's a beautiful place there.
Yeah,
I miss it. I feel like I really want to go back, honestly.
Definitely.
I think I will. I think I will sooner than later. But yeah, in terms of my itinerary, just to spell it out, is arrived at Tokyo. I actually had a flight canceled the first day. That was terrible. Flight cancellations are not fun. But I managed to meet new people because I asked them if they wanted to hang out, right?
Okay.
We were at LAX and the flight got delayed until 4 p.m. It was supposed to be at 11 a.m.
Okay.
And then once it got canceled, we got hotels that they gave us at LAX for free.
Oh, nice.
We got shuttled to those hotels. And in that shuttle, people on our flight was talking about it. And like, so there's some people on their honeymoons. There's like 2 different couples on their honeymoons. And like a lot of couples, married people. and two pairs of them, I asked them if they wanted to like eat dinner, and that's what we did. Because originally, what I wanted to do was when I arrived at Japan, I was gonna stay at a hostel,
Okay.
and I was gonna try to make friends at that hostel.
Okay.
So with that same sort of
Mentality.
mentality,
Yeah.
that's what I did at LAX instead at the Sheraton Hotel. But it was cool
Nice.
because like it was cool to like talk to people and ask them, yo, what's your itinerary gonna be? What's your itinerary gonna be? And like we're giving each other recommendations, all that stuff too, and it was dope.
Nice.
Yeah. So
you landed in Tokyo.
yeah, after that I landed in Tokyo. Thank goodness.
Yeah.
Because I rebooked the flight for the next morning and it almost missed the flight.
The next morning again.
It missed the layover almost.
Oh, okay.
Because there was layover in Chicago, I think.
Okay.
And there was a thunderstorm there. So we had to land at a different airport and wait out the thunderstorm and then wait for a clear airspace. By the time we got back to the original or the one that we were supposed to land in, it was 20 minutes before the flight was taking off for Japan.
To Japan.
Yeah.
Dang.
And they waited for us, luckily.
Okay.
Like, thank God. Like, everyone who had their flight canceled on the first flight was so, like, stressed.
Oh,
like,
man.
beyond. I was so stressed. I was like, holy shit. Like, this is, like, the worst outcome possible if I were to miss 2 flights in a row like that.
Yeah.
So I was majorly stressed. But luckily, it went through. And I got to Japan.
Nice.
And then once I got to Tokyo, like, the hotel room I stayed in was like a smoke room. So it smelled terrible.
Dang.
And I could not really sleep. I slept for like 2 to 3 hours. And I'm amazed that I was able to sleep because when I woke up, I was just like I was coughing. I was like, this is the worst sleep experience I've ever had in my life. And it was after all the flight stuff. It was a wreck. That was how my Japan trip went in the beginning.
Yeah.
But somehow I woke up at like around 5 a.m. ish. Just went out, started exploring. I was not tired, and everything went like pretty nicely after that in terms of things that were, I don't know. It seemed like fate did not want me to be in Japan.
Yeah, but you made it.
Yeah, I made it, and I was happy and just like glad to finally be back in Japan. Tokyo was cool. We saw like the Shinjuku Gyoen. Went there twice because the second time was with you guys.
Yeah.
At it was like called Naked or something, the Naked Show.
Oh, the
trees.
Tree. Yeah, it sounds weird when you just say naked, but it was like a light show.
Yeah.
It was a light show for the sakura trees.
Yeah, that was really cool.
Mm-hmm.
But I went there beforehand during the day, and it was also really cool.
Okay.
I actually think I might like it better in the day.
Mm.
But after that, I went to Kyoto on the bullet train and stayed there for about, I think, 4 days, and then went to Nara, and then went to Osaka only for the night. Unfortunately, I wanted to stay more in Osaka. That's probably the biggest regret from this trip, was not staying longer in Osaka. So one of the big lessons is don't book for just like one night. In my opinion, I think booking for 2 nights at a place is much better.
That makes sense. Yeah.
Because like you don't know when you're gonna check in, or like if plans change, right?
Yeah.
So if you check in that night, you're only there for that night, and then the next day you can explore that place, sleep, and then like leave the day afterwards. Of course, it's up to you in terms of how many days you have. But personally, I think like spending at least a day in an area would be ideal.
Right.
Because that's like too much moving. There's so much movement with luggages, and I hate that.
Yeah, that is a good point. Is like carrying all that luggage. In a way, it's kind of inevitable because you have to have it.
Yeah.
But it's a pain to like figure out and organize where you're gonna keep it.
So I had to do that a lot. Like to the airport, because I arrived late at night. So after customs, some of the trains were closed. But I arrived a mile away from my hotel, the smoke room, and I had to walk a mile with my luggages and stuff. And it's pretty annoying to do that.
Yeah.
And then after going to Kyoto, with the luggage again, Kyoto to Nara with the luggage again, Nara to Osaka with the luggage again, Osaka to Nagoya with the luggage again, Nagoya to Hakone. Unfortunately, I didn't get to see Mount Fuji. I really wanted to.
Same. I wish I would have been able to do that Mount Fuji hike. That would have been really fun.
I don't know about the hike, but I just want to like.
I really want to hike it. I really want to hike it because I like that hiking, but apparently it's like a 9-hour hike all the way around.
Damn.
So it would have been an intense hike. And then that plus all the walking that you do in Japan, it's a lot.
It is a lot.
So
And
it was also closed, I think. Mount Fuji, I don't think it was open to the hike while we were there. So that was a bummer.
But next time.
Next time.
But Hakone is really, really nice. It's one of my favorite places in Japan for sure. Anyways, the point was Hakone to Tokyo with luggage.
Yeah.
Basically, try to pack light. That is one of my biggest tips. Pack light. Try to stay 2 nights if you can, if you have the time. If not, then you got to plan it right where you spend a good amount of time in that place for that day. Yeah, that's just a general tip that I learned for sure. Like, I packed pretty light, so I didn't mind carrying my luggages too much. But it was still a hassle.
Yeah.
But after we got to Tokyo, we stayed for the rest of the time. And that's where we met up with you.
Yeah. So we were in Tokyo for a couple days before you came back to Tokyo. And we were able to do some fun stuff. We did team labs.
Yeah. Let's list out the things we did. I'm curious to which were your favorite.
Okay.
So let's go team labs. We can count the Shinjuku Gyoen Naked Show in it because it was definitely an activity that we paid to enter. So we'll count that one. And then we did the Ghibli Museum.
Yes.
That was pretty dope. And then we did Tokyo Disney Sea.
Yes.
And I think that was it, right?
I think that was it.
In terms of the big
group activities.
Group ones.
Yeah.
Where we had to pay for entry. And
we were like a complete group.
Yeah.
Essentially. Yeah. I think out of all of those, my favorite was probably Team Labs.
Oh, really? Nice.
Yeah, I think that was probably my favorite, just because like it was it felt like being inside somebody's imagination.
Yeah.
I really enjoyed just like the artistic aesthetic of everything that was there. So I that was probably my favorite.
Yeah, I wish we could have spent more time there, to be honest.
I
wish we could have just like chilled at certain areas for
Yeah.
longer.
Yeah.
Because there were definitely some really nice areas. I wish there were less people.
Yeah,
that was a big thing.
Less people. That's true. Yeah. There were a lot of people.
But it was a unique experience. Definitely one of my favorites as well.
Mhm.
But I'd say for me personally, what really, really moved me was the Believe Sea of Dreams show in Tokyo Disney Sea. That show, I know you guys didn't see it, but
No.
personally for me, I just really, really loved it for some reason. It's like a light show with music, and there was this arrangement where they played all the like love songs from Disney, and it was such a beautiful arrangement. And with the light shows and fireworks and the boats and the water going on, it created a very, very unique experience. And I feel like that's like something you don't see every day.
Yeah.
For sure.
Yeah.
Same with Team Labs, but this one was just like, I don't know, for me personally as a musician, like when I hear something like that, that's just so beautifully arranged and just like so nice, mixed in with lights and mixed in with Team Labs had a really great atmosphere too with their sound that I really enjoyed. So those would be my two favorites, I'd say.
Nice.
But Studio Ghibli Museum was also really cool. I wish I could have spent more time there too.
Yeah, it was interesting because like one of the things that I noticed at the Ghibli Museum was it seems like the movies, the Ghibli movies that are popular in Japan are just not the same Ghibli movies that are popular with us over here in the US, just because like we love movies like Ghibli movies like Howl's Moving Castle, Spirited Away, Princess Mononoke, and being at the Ghibli Museum, it felt like that was not like anywhere to be found. Like there were a couple of things here and there, but there was just not a lot. It was a lot of
Totoro?
there was a fair amount of Totoro in Japan, but even still, like Porco Rosso was such a huge one over there in that Ghibli Museum. It was very surprising. And just some of the what we would consider the more obscure Ghibli movies they seem to be much more popular.
Yeah, I gotta watch more of them. I feel like I don't know. I haven't seen Porco Rosso, so
yeah, I haven't either. I'm gonna watch it. I think one of our friends who who was with us, she was telling me that she decided to watch it when we got back. She got halfway through before she told me that she wasn't really feeling it.
Well,
But
not all of them can be
yeah,
bangers, I guess, but
yeah,
it's good to at least, for me personally, I love the music for Ghibli movies, and watching it just to get some context for the music, I think I'd be willing to do that just because the music is so good.
Yeah, one of the favorite things that I got in my trip to Japan was I went to Tower Records multiple times, and I
remember you talking about that a lot.
Yeah, I got vinyl records for Howl's Moving Castle and
Nice.
Spirited Away, so I was able to get like some really cool merchandise.
Yeah, stuff in Japan. They do have a lot of cool stuff in Japan. For me personally, for some odd reason, when I went to the Nintendo store, and there's like a store in Tokyo, a Nintendo store in Tokyo, where on the same floor you have Nintendo, Capcom, Pokemon, and a whole bunch of other stuff. I didn't really feel, I didn't really feel like I saw anything there that I wanted. I guess for me personally, I'm just not much of a like shopper.
I feel you.
Yeah. So, but we did get that one thing at that one store, with the bag with the bears, or not bears, penguins, and then that one bear.
Oh yeah,
the coin pouch, the
coin pouch.
Yeah. That was a cool buy.
It was.
It was a funny story because like we were looking at those pouches, and then the worker came to us and then just picked it out and was showing us, and she was just like, "Look,
one
like,
of them is not a
bear."
penguin.
One bear.
Just like this whole like this whole like picture of penguins just all over the place, and it's like, oh, this one singular bear.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, that's so cool.
Yeah, both of us were like, oh, and then we bought it.
Yeah, we both got it.
She was a great salesman.
Yeah, she knew exactly what we were looking for. It was perfect.
Yeah, that was one thing I actually bought. But like when I was at the store, I didn't see anything I wanted. I just bought like some souvenirs for some friends. But when I went to the Don Quixote store though, which is like a really big brand in Japan, like it's everywhere, almost like a Walmart or something, they had a lot of souvenirs I actually bought
nice.
for my friends and family, like things that I would actually want myself, but personally I don't. I think I find more value in giving something to someone else, so then they have it as like a gift.
You're right.
I feel like something that was given to you is a bit more valuable than something that you bought on your own. So
that was also part of what made my last stay in Tokyo so cool, was because I was able to also get some stuff for other people that I was like I was looking out for, but I wasn't able to like find.
Yeah.
So for whatever reason, I don't know why. I'm sure it's just because I didn't know exactly where to look. But for whatever reason in Tokyo, so my brother, one of my brothers wanted some like Japanese matcha, and one of my other brothers wanted something that was like sakura, anything like sakura based. And so it was really weird because like being in Tokyo, I didn't find any place that just like sold matcha powder. I'm sure they have it, they have to, but I just, being an American, I didn't see it. I didn't see it as in the place that I was with. But in Kyoto, literally within the first few hours I was there, I was like, oh, like I stumbled upon a shop that was just like selling only like matcha stuff.
Nice.
And they had this matcha ice cream.
Yeah, dude.
That was incredible.
Was it the soft serve or was it something else?
It was like a soft serve.
Yeah, dude.
It was a matcha, and they had like tiers of like quality matcha. So it was just like regular matcha over to like super high quality matcha. So I got like the super high quality matcha ice cream, and it tasted so rich, and it was perfect,
dude. In 2017, me and Roger, that was like one of the things we did like every single day in Kyoto. Like we would just get a matcha soft serve every single day.
It was I don't know if that's like if Kyoto is like the place for that kind of stuff.
It is like I tried. I mean, like I found it in Tokyo as well. Of course you can find it, but it's way more prominent in Kyoto.
in
At
Kyoto.
least for me, I noticed that.
Yeah, and so it was. I got the matcha that my brother wanted, and then that last day that I was in Japan, was just like walking through Kyoto, and I stumbled into this other tea shop, and they had this like sakura tea
That's perfect.
that was just like perfect. It was like it was just one of those things that
Yeah.
like I was walking by myself, just walking around. And I stumbled into all of these different places that I was able to just like get these like last minute
Yeah,
things that
dude.
I wanted for my trip, for like having been in Japan.
I felt the same exact way
Yeah.
at the Don Quixote store.
Nice.
Because I literally went. That was the last place I went to before the airport.
Oh yeah.
So it was
dang.
right before I left, and I was like, "Whoa, this is cool! This is cool!" This is cool. I'm like, "Souvenir, souvenir, souvenir!"
Yeah,
and
yeah.
it was perfect. It just worked out that way. It was
Yeah,
amazing.
it's
I
so
spent
cool.
everything I had
Nice.
because I primarily used cash when I was there. So I spent the rest of it in that Don Quixote store
Nice.
and got some snacks for the plane ride as well.
Nice.
Yeah.
It
was great.
Yeah, it was a great trip. I'm
It
trying to
was.
think of anything else that.
There's one thing I want to mention.
Yeah.
I'm not sure if you tried it, but there's an ice cream called Cremia.
I did.
Yeah,
I did try it.
You know what I'm talking about, right?
I did.
Dude,
Yeah,
it's
yeah.
like the best ice cream I've had, like probably in my life. I love that ice cream.
It's like this Hokkaido milk based ice cream, and it was so good. It
Yeah,
was so
the
good.
cone itself too, like the
Yeah, it's
texture,
like-
just all of it.
I like, yeah. I was trying to keep my eye out for it. Andrew also knew about it, like going in. We were like trying to keep our eye out for it, and this was also on that last day that I was in Japan.
Yeah.
Like that was just like I got everything that
Yeah,
I
I
wanted.
had it on my last day too.
I like it was that morning when because I started that day at the bamboo forest alone,
Mhm.
and so I arrived at that station in Arashiyama.
That's right.
And I got to the train station. It was still very early in the morning, so none of the shops were open yet.
Mhm.
But I noticed on one of the shops, it was like an ice cream shop, and they had the creamiest sign.
Yeah.
So I was like, oh, okay. So like when I come back, hopefully it'll all be open and I'll be able to get it. And that's exactly what I did. As soon as I got back from that adventure, on the way back, I got some. It was really cool. I was walking back. This was like after leaving the bamboo forest, after walking through the scene from My Neighbor Totoro. I went into this little house, and this Japanese woman, this old Japanese woman, was selling pottery, and so I was just like able to buy pottery from this old Japanese woman who lives on the base of the bamboo forest. It was so cool. And so I got that for my mom.
Nice.
And I got some stuff that she would probably appreciate. And on the way back, I got that ice cream at the shop. I got there were two ice creams that I got there. There was that ice cream, the creamy ice cream, which was great, and then there's this honeycomb ice cream
Nice.
that I was able to get, and that was really cool.
Same brand, like Cremia, or
No. It was a different one.
Gotcha.
It was a different brand,
Okay.
but yeah. By the time I had come down, it was later in the morning, so everything was open. Everything was like bustling at that point.
Dude, it can get crowded in Kyoto.
It gets crowded really, really
Yeah.
quick. It gets crowded really, really quick.
But in the morning, it's nice when there's less people.
Yeah. So that was a really, really cool experience.
I got a little plush doll for my mom. Gonna give it to her in Mother's Day.
Nice.
Yeah, it's like a pink Shiba Inu plush doll.
Yeah.
Don Quixote store. But yeah, I also ate that ice cream the last day. Right before boarding the plane, I ate 2 of them within a 30-minute time span.
Nice. They had it in the airport, right?
I'm not sure.
I
They
think
might.
they did.
Well,
think they
I was
did.
at the Haneda airport.
Yeah, same.
Yeah, you were?
Yeah. I was in Haneda. I went back to Tokyo from Kyoto literally that next morning. And I thought I saw that sign in the airport,
Man,
in the waiting area.
I don't know, man. If I saw it, I think I would have like immediately
Gotten
went
it.
to, but maybe I wasn't paying attention because I was tired. But
Yeah.
Tsukiji Fish Market is where I ate it. There happens to be a spot there that you can get it
I
from.
missed that. Yeah, because I was also at the fish market But yeah, I was focused on
Yeah,
the,
that fish market is
food.
pretty sweet. Like,
Yeah,
it's
yeah,
very
yeah.
touristy, but the stuff there is
It's a great
good.
place. Yeah, the
It
food
tastes
there is
good.
incredible.
Um,
Definitely get there before things start shutting down because they kind of close down around
mm,
like 3.
yeah.
So getting there earlier
But I was
is
very
the
happy
move.
to have that place be my last like place before going to
Yeah.
leave. I ate a lot of total fatty tuna stuff, like the
Mm-hmm.
different kinds.
Mm-hmm.
Just beautiful.
It's so like, man, I don't know where to go to have that kind of food
No,
here.
you can't. I mean, you could. Like, there are definitely sushi restaurants, but they are gonna be pricey as hell.
Exactly. Exactly.
One place that I really like in LA that sells good Toro, in my opinion, is Sushi Enya.
Mm,
It's a place in Little Tokyo as well as Pasadena. But personally, I really like their sushi, but it's really pricey.
mm,
So
mm-hmm.
compared to Japan, where you get like the same amount of pieces,
Yeah.
like for maybe like $5,
Yeah.
compared to like here for 16 to $20,
Right.
it's like crazy.
Yeah. Yeah. It's a completely different experience, but I'm glad that I was able to have
Yeah.
that little adventure.
Gyokatsu, that was really good too.
Oh yeah. Yeah, the gyokatsu.
When we ate it together, like
Yeah,
we were
yeah,
waiting for
yeah.
like I don't even know how long, maybe an hour. I feel like it
Yeah.
was an hour.
But it's like uncomfortable because you have to like
Wait on the stairs and all
wait
that
on
stuff.
these stairs going down in this like kind of cramped area, and you can't really sit down because they have all these signs all over the place in English because they know who they're talking to, saying that you can't sit here. So,
Yeah.
yeah, it was very uncomfortable waiting
Yeah.
for
When we
that
were
place.
waiting, I had half a mind to be like, this is taking too long. Let's eat somewhere else. But I'm so glad I did not give into
Yeah,
that because it tasted so good.
it
That was
did. It
that
did.
was one of my favorite places to eat at for sure.
It
Was
did.
Gyokatsu.
It was great. It was great. And then there was this uh tonkotsu curry that we had as well. That was also very, very good.
You're talking about the one we had the night before we left, right?
Yes, the night before you guys left. Yeah.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Yeah, I
So
feel like I should have eaten a lot more ramen. Like that's another regret I have. I'm like, I think I only ate at maybe 2 or 3 ramen places, and I'm like,
mm, yeah, I
oh.
wish I didn't have nearly as much sushi as I was expecting to.
Yeah.
But I mean there was so much food there. Like there's so much food to
And
have.
it's all
Just
good
like
too.
yeah, and it's all good. It's all good. Yeah, one of the things that coming back here is getting the idea of like having to not be excited at seeing a 7-Eleven here because like over there 7-Eleven is like a completely different thing. It's
Yeah,
like
you can always get a good like small snack or even
yeah,
a small meal there, and
yeah,
it'll taste good.
it'll be yeah, there's so much that you can get there. And then also that's where I would get my cash because they have ATMs
Yeah.
there that would work perfectly with my bank card. So I was able to get cash there. I was able to do so much there at 7-Eleven. But then I'm coming back here, seeing a 7-Eleven, my initial like knee jerk is to like get excited. But I gotta
That's
like
so
remind
funny.
myself, oh no, I'm back here. It's like it's just a normal 7-Eleven now. So
Japan
yeah.
7-Elevens, they're very different
Yeah,
there.
7-Eleven, Lawson, Family Mart
Yeah.
over there is really, really cool.
We will be
Yeah.
back at some point.
At some
Eventually.
point. At some point.
Yeah.
Gotta explore the other parts of Japan. I really would have loved to go to Okinawa to
Mm.
have that like tropical vibe in Japan.
Yeah, there's so many places we haven't explored yet. So
Mm-hmm.
I I feel like there's a lot to do still. I know I have like a friend or two where they're like, "Oh, I'm good with Japan." Like they traveled there once and they're good, and I'm like, "Yo, I don't understand you. Like, are you sure you don't want to go there again? Because there's just so much, you know."
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. Any other stories on your side?
Um
Or
just
we can get into the practical as well. Like, are there any tips that you feel we should that could help people who don't know anything about Japan?
I mean, one of the things that I was a little bit worried about was being feeling cramped
Hmm.
just cuz like things in Japan are small. Rooms are small, places are
Gotcha.
small. That was
It's also because
definitely
you're tall
something.
and big.
Yeah, I'm a tall guy, big guy. I'm like 6'2", so it's not necessarily a place that's built for people like me. But yeah, I was able to manage for the most part. So yeah, just kind of be a little mindful of that and knowledgeable of that going in. One of the big things was navigating,
Yeah. You
and
guys Ubered a lot.
we Ubered a lot,
Yeah.
which Uber was actually very, very helpful in certain instances. One of the things that happened with me is that towards the end, so I have T-Mobile. I was able to have like high speed data for
Yeah.
most of the
Same.
trip.
Same.
However, the last few days I got throttled. So I like ran out of my full data. So it was like my data was throttled in the last few days. And so I really didn't have reliable navigation at all
Right.
in those last few days of my Japan trip. So I had to rely heavily on navigating and just like
Through the signs and stuff, right?
like reading the signs, trying to figure out the train system, the lines,
Yeah.
as much as I could. So definitely pay attention. Definitely pay attention to the
Definitely.
signs as much as possible. They have plenty of English there, especially when it comes to signs. So it's helpful.
There's a priority order in my opinion. Like you look at the name of the line and the color, and then after you find that, like you start looking at platform number as well as the exact time that you see on your navigation system.
Mm,
Because like earlier on, I went the wrong direction sometimes. I
yeah,
think maybe twice. Um, but as long as you're checking the right platform and the right time, they should match up always. Like you will be going in the right direction.
yeah,
And also check the cart number as well. It's actually more important than you think, the car number.
yeah.
Because if you go on the right one, it'll take
get
you to the
Mhm.
correct exit
Right,
of the station or like the nearest transfer or whatever.
right,
So
right.
all those details matter when you're
When you're in Japan.
navigating. Yeah,
Hmm.
it's very very helpful to pay attention to every single one of them. Yeah,
So
that's what I learned. Because towards the end, I felt like very confident about
same,
navigating.
same. If I lost my data like at the beginning versus at the end, I'd have been in a very different place. But like by that time, I was already used to like reading the signs and following along, so I was able to navigate by myself
Yeah,
fairly confidently, and I was able to get myself back to from Kyoto to Tokyo, because at that point in the trip. By the time it was like at the end, I was pretty much on my own. That last day was all solo, except I had dinner with Andrew and the guys
hmm
that night.
hmm
So I met up with them that night again. That was also after Mount Inari, which was probably my favorite. Like,
Mount Inari.
yeah,
Okay.
the red gates and all of that. That was
Oh,
probably my favorite in the whole like experience in the whole trip.
yeah. Are you talking about like Fushimi
Yeah,
Inari
yeah, yeah.
Taisha? Okay,
Hmm.
gotcha.
Hmm.
Okay.
And so I literally hiked up. I did that hike at nighttime,
Oh, okay.
and it was pretty frightening. But I did that at nighttime. It was like the sun was setting as I started.
Oh, okay.
So like as I was going up, it was pretty dark, and then I got to the top and I came back down, and then I met up with the guys for dinner,
hmm
and that was the last time I saw them in Japan. I went back to my hotel, and I was basically on my own that whole day, and then back home, back here to the
Yeah,
U.S. So
yeah.
I had to navigate myself with like no data on my phone.
Nice job, dude.
Yeah.
Congrats. You made it back.
I made it back here. I made it back here. Yeah, and so it was that's definitely something that you got to pay attention to, is like reading the signs. Try your best not to get lost, because it'll be hard
Yeah,
to
and if you get lost, you
get
just
unlost.
ask people.
Yeah,
Hopefully you can
sure.
speak a little bit of Japanese,
Yeah.
because there's a good amount of people there that actually don't speak English. Like I ask them a lot.
Mm-hmm.
Like I first talk to them in Japanese. If I don't understand them, I say I don't understand. Do you know how to speak English?
Mm-hmm.
And some people actually say they don't. Like
Yeah, yeah,
so,
yeah. Which I mean, yeah, it's Japan.
yeah, it makes sense.
Yeah, it makes sense.
But yeah, there's a lot that happened in this trip, and I'm sure we could keep talking about it. But
Mm-hmm.
those were definitely some of the highlights for sure.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Miso katsu in Nagoya was really good. The soba noodles in Hakone was really good too. Hakone is a very naturey area.
Mm.
It's at one of the 5 lakes near Mount Fuji.
Okay.
So there's 5 lakes surrounding Mount Fuji where you can see Mount Fuji from,
Mm-hmm.
and Hakone is one of them. And it just has like really beautiful areas. Definitely a place that you should check out next time.
Nice.
I'd recommend. Um, but I would like to go to each of those 5 lakes at some point and just see the areas around it.
Right.
But I think that's pretty much it in terms of what I wanted to talk about. I basically just wanted to get all my feelings out again with Japan,
Yeah.
because it took a long time to journal everything with Japan. Like after getting back, I took like maybe 2 weeks to just write all the like as much details as I can remember of like the whole trip, and it was just a lot of writing, man.
Yeah.
But I'm glad to have it all recorded so I can like look back the next time I go.
Nice. Nice.
How are you feeling now that like we're totally back? Because we've been back for what, almost 3 weeks now?
Yeah, 2 to 3 weeks.
Yeah.
Yeah, it feels good. Like it feels good not having my feet hurt every day after walking.
Yeah, I actually felt
Um,
like I got stronger as the
mhm.
trip went on. My bag felt lighter towards the
Nice.
end,
Nice.
and I somehow did not get any leg issue. Well, there was one day where my big toe for one of my feet slightly hurt, but barely. It wasn't debilitating. It was just like it hurt a little bit.
Nice.
Um, Other than that, I was pretty solid throughout
Sweet.
my trip.
Yeah.
But in 2017, I remember my feet hurting a lot, like crazy a lot.
Yeah.
So I really think one of the big differences was shoes. So just wear comfortable shoes.
Yeah, that's a
Yeah.
that's a good point. Yeah. Make sure that your shoes are on point.
Yeah.
But yeah, the being back now, it feels good to like be back into like my routine.
Yeah, for sure.
Um
I'm barely back, honestly.
yeah. But yeah, I'm definitely excited. Like I would love to do more trips in the
Hell yeah.
future, just like even outside of just Japan, just like other places.
Well, hopefully we can do some of those trips together. So.
Yeah, that'd be great. That would be
Yeah, we
great.
can talk about it again.
Yes,
Yeah,
definitely.
but this was definitely a good discussion. Thank you so much for coming on.
Thanks for having me.
I'm always down to talk more Japan too. If you ever feel like there's a fun story that comes up,
Yeah.
so hit me up.
Yeah.
But thank you guys for watching. Thank you guys for listening, and we'll catch you guys in the next one. Peace.
All right. Peace.